I'm Patrick Pacheco. Coming up on Theater All the Moving Parts, a double bill of multiple Tony Award winners speak of their respective off-Broadway projects torn from the headlines. The musical Dead Outlaw, about a deceased desperado who lived on as a sideshow attraction. And Corruption, which dramatizes the Murdoch phone hacking scandal. Hello, I'm Patrick Pacheco. Welcome to Theater All the Moving Parts, and a double bill of Tony Award winners speaking of their respective off-Broadway plays based on true life events. First, I'm joined by director David Cromer, playwright Itamar Moses, and the composer David Yazbek, here to talk about Dead Outlaw, the true story of the hapless bandit Elmer McCurdy. Then writer J.T. Rogers and director Bartlett Sher will speak with me about Corruption, the phone hacking scandal that rocked the Rupert Murdoch media empire. Welcome, Itamar. Welcome, the Davids, Cromer and Yazbek, from zooming in from his studio. Congratulations on a most fascinating production of Dead Outlaw, which we should state at the outset, tells the true life tale of a hapless bandit, Elmer McCurdy, who died in 1911 in a shootout with an Oklahoma posse. But his body remained preserved and unburied until 1977. And this musical tells an amazing story of his picarous adventures as a robber before his death and as a sideshow attraction after his death as a corpse and a mummy. So let's start our conversation.
He was a corpse and a mummy.
A corpse and a mummy. I'd like to start our conversation by asking each of you, and Yazbek, I know that you read this tale or became familiar with Elmer some years ago and sort of put the ball in motion, and I'd like to ask each of you, what attracted you to the story?
I was told this story orally by a friend of mine who's, when it was happening, when the mummy was discovered, they thought it was a dummy. It was painted day-glow red and hanging in an amusement park ride in Southern California. It was briefly a national news story. It hooked me immediately. My practice in this life is thinking about death, not in a depressing way, not in a suicidal way, but in a constructive way, I think. And it hooked me because it was about death and fame and ambition and violence. It was about everything that makes America great.
Itamar, David brought you in. You had worked together on The Band's Visit, obviously, and David, you had directed it, The Band's Visit, that is. What appealed to you when Yazbek brought you the story?
I was interested because I definitely knew I wanted to do another show with Yazbek, and then I read the story, and I just thought, this is the most insane series of events I've ever read, and if we could just figure out how to build a container for conveying it, it's gonna be great. Because every twist and turn of the story is just so crazy, and then as Yazbek was saying, it has all of these very sort of weighty themes that can be delivered in this in this very sort of eccentric, entertaining package having to do with fame and death and all these.
Are you as obsessed with death as Yazbek is?
I agree with him. I think fundamentally that there's something a little bit unhealthy about our cultural relationship to death. That it has something to we try all these ways to pretend it's never going to happen or to run from it. Fame is one that chasing fame, chasing money, chasing the temporary highs, temporary dopamine highs that life can offer, and all to try to hide this knowledge from ourselves that we can't actually hide. And so I was really on board with that project of sort of like trying to put it in people's faces a little bit, like actually this is something that's coming for all of us, and if we can take that into our hearts in a healthy way, we'll actually live more meaningful lives.
Cromer, what was the challenge to you when you became involved in Dead Outlaw?
Was the thing that excited me most about it was I love the idea that you take something that seems like a story I would read in the back of like a comic book or something when I was a kid, or a Ripley's Believe It or Not, or a Bizarre Tales. It feels like one of those things you sort of read in like a Ripley's book, or like the Guinness Book of World Records, which were big things when I was a kid in the 70s when the story starts. These sort of creepy, macabre stories, and that they were creating something in which we were going to look at complex and nuanced and beautiful and human aspects of just this life, and terrifying and things, death, these things we fear, while being in this sort of tales of the weird kind of story. You know what I mean? So the juxtaposition of those two things was really, really exciting to me.
I was sort of amazed and impressed that the first song is a beautiful song called The Stars Are Bright that kind of establishes Elmer as a cowboy poet.
When the wind is warm like this wind, it reminds you who you are. The dew, it appears just like grateful tears. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
What was important about setting that tone at the start of this musical?
I always imagined that would be the beginning. Even before we wrote the song, I imagined there'd just be this beautiful starlit sky and this poetic song. And I think if you have to sort of intellectualize why, I think the reason is that all of my favorite songs are ballads, but not sort of Broadway ballads, but simple songs that are about the natural world, which includes human love and stuff. But songs like The Waters of March, Joe Beam. I've written some myself on my albums. In this case, it's the world of echoes and shadows that we live in. And it's sweet. It's a very sweet life that we have. And we screw it up all the time by not appreciating the present moment. So I really wanted to get an audience into the present moment and just settled into it. And then I also knew that the song right after it would be this barn burning kind of cinematic, galloping Western thing about death. Just juxtapose it. I think the thing about theater that I love the most is the fact that it does good theater puts you in even bad theater puts you in the present moment, because everybody's there and alive in that moment. But there are these moments where you don't even realize it intellectually. It's dark. This is one of my teachers used to say this. It's dark to the mind and radiant to the heart. And that moment where the two things rub together, there's a spark.
You went from, say, the Middle Eastern idioms for Band's Visit to the Western sort of country thing. Were there any specific influences in writing this score with the Western?
In this case, it's not just Western. There's definitely like AC/DC kind of rock. I had my AC/DC phase. I'm still in it. There's cinematic kind of Ennio Morricone kind of fake Western, but like really exciting. There's all kinds of stuff that has inspired this score. And Eric Della Penna, who is a great songwriter, he and I share a lot of influences in common, but he has some that I don't have that he introduced me to as well.
Idemar and Kromer, the show runs through April 7th, but it will be recorded and released on Audible as the latest in their theatrical series. In what way did the story lend itself to the auditory experience, and how did it influence the writing of it?
When we sort of embraced the fact that we were writing it for Audible and there was going to be a version that was just heard, it unlocked the pace at which it needed to move for me somehow, or like the fleetness. And what we found doing it on stage is that it isn't like, well, we're going to do it on stage and then add a bunch of extra information. It's more that we began with a script that you could have just listened to, and we found ourselves taking a few things out because on the stage version, there's visual information that gives you stuff that you don't need the narrator to explain, for instance. But it's actually very close, I think, to what the Audible version will be. And there was something about thinking of it in my mind almost as a radio play that made it possible to structure it.
Trying to, even though it is very much a piece of theater that you can come see, that is a full theatrical experience, it was trying to maintain the original idea that David and Eric had written songs to play. We would all go see David and Eric play these songs with a band in venues. And it was, as you said earlier, a song cycle. And that the first I heard of it was David and Eric at lunch, and they told me this. I am trying to talk.
When people misrepresent my work, I sneeze. It's just like
right, just trying to maintain the purity of this is a song cycle. This is an interesting story you tell someone. Someone told David. David told me, David told Idamar, you know, so trying to keep it pure like that, and that the songs were not the songs are not all the songs, or many of the songs are not sort of in any way traditional musical theater songs. They're not always a character singing to another character about what they want from them or what they're going through. It is often themes, you know, a songwriting exploration of a theme, of an idea, of sort of a part of the show. So starting with the oral experience of it, the telling, not showing, was really was the way we started. And so all of those things have come together to kind of keep it like a band playing songs and a person telling us this, you know, really just sort of endlessly fascinating story.
There's a normal frontier gal, and she'll be waiting there for me to be as normal as we please. Just how normal can we be?
I want to ask each of you, what makes Dead Outlaw particularly relevant at this American moment? Idamar, let's start with you.
Because it is such an American story. I mean, it covers 100 years of American history, sort of in the background. It's not it's not telling you history, but it covers 100 years, and what was happening over the course of that time is sort of constantly in the background.
From 1911 to 1977.
From 1880,
88,
when
right.
Elmer was born,
right,
until 1977 when he was buried. So it is literally almost 100 years. So it's a story about Western expansion. It's a story about like America sort of like, you know, eating up the natural world and sweeping before it like indigenous cultures that were there before, and replacing it with all of these like iconographic American cultural things like Hollywood, or, you know, our idea of the Wild West that never really existed. And what was buried by those kind of fictions. And I think that tells us a lot about like where we are now. So yeah, I think it is very relevant.
Cromer, Elmer is, as a corpse and a mummy, money as well, had to do with it, was sort of a victim of all these hucksters and con men all along the way.
Not like he was before. Now I'm an entrepreneur. That is a business to me. Dead outlaw. He's not like he was before. Now I'm an entrepreneur. That is a business to me. Gotta take it to the dead outlaw.
And Americans are susceptible to that, even right now. Why are we so susceptible to it as Americans?
We have this unquenchable hunger to stay alive. Our survival instinct is profound. It makes us flinch if we're if a car comes our way. We are somehow, for whatever reason, programmed to survive. So getting towards death and fearing death is this thing that makes us crazy. Filling the time, there's a song late in the show called The Crimson Thread. David Yazbek, I'm about to misrepresent this, but this thing that pulls you forward. We are always being pulled forward, and the end for everyone, whether you're a good guy, a bad guy, a huckster, a victim, anyone, is this other ending. It's a giant part of our lives. Filling that time with the myth that it's not happening, or with something entertaining, or with being a distraction, is just a very, very big part of it.
Yazbek?
Yeah.
Elmer is a tabula rasa, and these hucksters and con men kind of feed whatever story, and they even change his name if need be, whatever. What is it that compels them to reinvent him every step along the way?
A huckster is somehow very emotionally intelligent about what an audience wants at any given moment. And then a huckster knows how to manipulate that. And that's why when you feel like, you know what, we're not selling as many tickets with him, identified as an outlaw. I guess the outlaw thing is over. Let's dress him up as a Persian prince with a turban. People are liking that kind of stuff now. So the tabula rasa thing, is you give them what they want, or what you think they want. You try to figure that out. So there's something about a mummy. There's a song called There's Something About a Mummy. And one of the lines is tabula frickin' rasa. That's the great thing about a stiff.
Doesn't have opinions, doesn't act for motivation, rarely needs a retake, stays right at his location, plays any role you tell him, won't make any diff. Tabula frickin' rasa, that's the great thing about a stiff. The thing about a mummy is he'll never let you down. There's something about a mummy that's perfect for this town.
We should mention that Elmer is played by the wonderful Andrew Duran. Yeah. What makes him perfect for that? And if you would also, as a sort of a tag, he has to play him as a corpse and a mummy. So
he's sort of the total package as a performer. He's a striking, fascinating looking, incredibly charismatic guy. He sings beautifully.
The dew, it appears, just like grateful tears. I'm here.
His instincts are subtle and excellent. They're everything from just eye-flickingly subtle to like huge and sort of like broad. He's constantly creating. He was hiding in plain sight. I've known him for years. He's just sort of hiding in plain sight to be Elmer. He is egoless about he's not without self-preservation, obviously, but he's egoless about the corpse sections. He's fascinating in those corpse sections.
Lift him up slowly, try not to shake him, don't wanna break him, now into the box. Give him a rifle, prop him up proud little dead man, good paradox. See the bad man.
One of the interesting challenges of the piece was how Elmer is with us in the first part of the play and how he is with us in the second part of the play. And we can't take our eyes off Andrew. So that's made that challenge very easy.
one of the threads throughout the musical is the litany of the dead. Your mom is dead, your dad is dead. And then, of course, there are these famous people that are dead, 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 dead. Itamar,
Yes.
how did you decide who you killed off? Or
Well, those
at
are-
least said who are dead?
Those are lyrics, so it was largely David and Eric who decided.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of threads. I mean, there's that one where there's this song that keeps recurring, listing dead people. At a certain point, it starts listing people who are alive and saying that they're dead. They start listing, members of the cast and the crew of the show, and saying that they're dead. And then there's a thing that the script starts doing, later in the show, as we get through the various hucksters, I start telling you when everybody died. And so there is this sort of, I think, accumulating snowball of like it's where all of these people are headed. Yeah.
One of the chilling songs, at least that I heard, was the Thomas Noguchi song. Thomas Noguchi obviously was the LA coroner,
Yeah.
and a litany of very famous people,
Yeah.
including Marilyn Monroe, Elvis, Natalie Wood. He also was the coroner, controversially, for Robert F. Kennedy's assassination. Yazbek, tell us a little bit about the creation of that song, because it is chilling.
It's chilling, but it's also sort of swinging.
Yeah, it's a real toe tapper.
It's like a Nelson Riddle, Frank Sinatra kind of hang. I think Noguchi is fascinating for many reasons. One was that I just remember him from my childhood, seeing him every now and then when someone famous died. I think he sort of claimed to be camera shy, but he just always seemed to be on camera.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we should ask, who's the actor that plays him?
Tom Sesma.
Tom Sesma.
Tom Sesma.
It's just an incredible performance,
Yeah.
and he plays a lot of parts, but it's his
Yeah.
Noguchi. I think the song is chilling, partially because he begins by singing it to this very realistic mummy that's on a table, painted Dayglow red. I mean, it looks exactly like the actual mummy, except it seems to have Andrew Duran's face. And he's singing a song about famous icons who died mostly violently or before their time, it's just just a juxtaposition between fame and death. And I think the reason it's the most important song in the show, perhaps, even though it seems just like a flight of fancy in a way, is it just sticks it in your face.
Like the tag on the toe of Marilyn Monroe's body.
There you
sticking
go.
it
There you go.
in the
Those
face.
kind of images. Yeah.
We're talking a lot about death, but this musical is also so fully alive, and I think nowhere more than in the Andrew Payne section. A 20-year-old Native American who enters this race from 3,442 miles across America to win a prize of $25,000. It's an extraordinary moment. And I'd like to talk to you, Edomar, about, did you find that gold when you discovered that story?
Yes, it's funny you say that, because there were a number of challenges that Cromer was just alluding to, like how do we keep the audience engaged for the second half of a show in which our protagonist is dead and on stage but not moving or speaking? One answer is that Andrew Durand is somehow riveting while doing that. The other answer is like all these con men and hucksters who are so entertaining, and the twists and turns continue to be fascinating. But that piece was another element that felt really lucky, because yes, there was in 1928 this transcontinental foot race, it was called, where this guy, C.C. Pyle, organized this race on foot across the entire country as a promotional event for the inauguration of Route 66. But he wanted to make money, and he had a sideshow, and it became like this crazy spectacle.
The connection to Elmer is that Elmer was rented by C.C. Pyle, put into a sideshow that traveled alongside the race.
Right.
So we take this detour to this amazing story that's sort of like wonderfully different and kind of a complete juxtaposition to the story that actually involves Elmer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how you earn it.
You bring in two female characters. Obviously, the first one I think is Maggie, with whom he has a love affair with, not a very happy one. And then later, a 9-year-old girl who is the daughter of one of the hucksters.
She is several ages. Yeah.
She is several ages. But talk a little bit about how that flavors the musical. Cromer?
It's another beautiful nugget that you both found in the research, which was one of the sort of main kind of show business events in Elmer's life was that he was a prop in movies. And that's probably in the blurry time in which people are losing track of the fact that he was human remains and possibly him sort of being forgotten as an actual body and people starting to believe he was plaster or paper mache. And that he who was stored in the home of this film producer, and that his daughter Millicent. How did you all find Millicent?
I mean, it's just in a couple of the sort of books and articles that cover this story. Millicent, the daughter of this exploitation filmmaker in the 30s, who remembers, when you read the research, having this strange mummy in her house from time to time when she was growing up. So we thought, how fascinating. Let's just sort of see what it's like. So it's almost like she uses him as a journal. You know, it's this, she can talk to this
as a
figure that
psychiatrist.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Exactly. And it's just a way of having a different relationship to him than we've seen before.
I also want to say about those two characters we were talking about, Maggie and Millicent, along with many other roles, are played brilliantly by this really, really wonderful actor named Julian Eitel, who's in the show, who we are always happy to give more material to.
So terrific.
But someone in the cast pointed out that one of the things is that Elmer would be someone you would avoid contact with in real life. But as soon as he is stuffed and mounted and in a box, everyone wanted to look at him. Because outlaws were popular. You don't want to run into an outlaw on the street. But once they're curtailed, I get to go stare at them.
And in terms of show business, I mean, is there a better metaphor than movie tickets being stuffed or ticket stubs being stuffed in his dead mouth?
Maybe not. It's sort of perfect.
Now that you've said that, I'm going to start saying that in interviews. Is there a more perfect metaphor?
Yes, Vic. We have to wrap up, but I want to return to The Stars Are Bright. And that lovely lyric, God is, I'm going to probably mutilate it, but God is preaching, God is laughing at us. I'm paraphrasing here. Do you think of life as a cosmic joke?
Well, first of all, the line is, but up there, God is preaching, laughing while you're reaching. Meaning, here we all are reaching for something, and God is basically saying, stop reaching and start just being where you are.
And up there, God is preaching, laughing while you're reaching, and that's what no one ever seems to understand.
And if there was a God in the way that Elmer was probably taught there was a God, and God would be just laughing at the folly of not being in the present moment. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I guess it's a philosophical question about how you view death, perhaps the afterlife, and how you look at life in the present. Idema?
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
When I entered therapy at age 28 or whatever it was, because I was having massive anxiety attacks, and there's one sentence that my therapist said that really just helped. And he said, he actually gave me a paper that he had written as a thesis a long time ago. And it was a paper just about how death ennobles life, that the impermanence, it ennobles it. And I just thought, that kind of went a long way to helping me with my anxiety.
Yeah.
Cromer.
I had massive anxiety attacks, had a nearly kind of what I would almost call near a break in the year 2000 in this absolute fear that I was dying. And I know lots and lots of people suffer from this, and this relationship to the it being part of this is something that is peacemaking. I'm not saying we run towards it. I'm not saying we embrace it. I'm not saying we don't try to stop it, but so that we can continue to be in the now, to live our lives, to be of use, to do good. But it is, so again, it's this, we have this crazy, seedy, macabre, funny, absurd story. and it's about kind of these big things, you know. Or we're trying to make it about these very big things.
Idemar?
My therapist also gave me good advice.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, no, I relate to all of that. That like what's so interesting about art making, you're trying to capture like these unnameable feelings that we all have and can't quite put into words, and then get us all together to feel them and feel less alone. And so it's almost like a show, any piece of theater or book or song, if it works, on some level, that's what it's doing. The song that you keep mentioning, the opening song, the last lyrics of it are "I'm here, I'm here, I'm here," and in a weird way, that might be the thesis of the show and of all art. Is like I'm the reminder that we're here, that I'm here, that you're here, and that we're here together, and that ultimately there may not be anything else that matters.
Well, as Carnies, you guys are selling your stuff along the midway called Off-Broadway, in the most delightful way. So I want to thank each of you for being with us.
Thank you for having us, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
We are taking a short break. When we return, I'm joined by playwright J.T. Rogers and director Bartlett Sher to talk about Corruption, based on the expose Dial M for Murdoch, which detailed the shocking phone hacking scandal which sent reverberations throughout Britain's Fleet Street and Parliament. We're back. I'm Patrick Pacheco. I'm here with writer J.T. Rogers and director Bartlett Sher, the team that brought us the Tony-winning play Oslo, to discuss their new off-Broadway drama, Corruption, at Lincoln Center Theater. Welcome, J.T. Welcome, Bart, to Theater All the Moving Parts, and congratulations on a masterful achievement with Corruption, a worthy successor to Oslo. I guess we should say at the beginning that the play is based on the book Dial M for Murdoch, News Corporation, and the Corruption of Britain. It's about the notorious 2011 phone hacking scandal. Families were destroyed, politicians disgraced, celebrities shamed, and people went to jail.
Yes.
JT, I know that you had first thought of this as a film. At what point did it become theatrical in your mind?
A few years ago, actually, Bart and I have been talking about it off and on for years, and as time has gone on, sometimes things happen for a reason artistically, and what was a story that I was consumed with and wanting to make a piece about for the stage that was specifically about a scandal with a media company in a foreign land, in this case the UK, has actually, without the details of the story changing, and now, I was going to say parable, but it's more. It is about the United States of America and the post-truth world. And this is the sort of secret origin story. So what I've tried to do is create, using a model of a political thriller based in real events, and having come now been a showrunner and running a TV show for a number of years, because we always want to try something new. What can I bring in muscle-wise, storytelling-wise, what can I do to make something I've never done before on the stage that sort of has epic sweep in a sort of Shakespearean way, with 13 actors playing 50 speaking parts, with video and projections, and who is the only person that can do that would be this gentleman.
How can you use stagecraft to get what JT is getting at?
Well, I mean, I think we're changing as audiences. I think we can handle a lot more information than we used to, right? I think because we're on our phone and we're doing this stuff, I think we can track a lot of events at the same time. And I'm interested as an artist in seeing how much more I can cram into a night. So I've described to him that we're not actually doing a play. We're doing a new form of theater, which is called How Do You Do the 6-Part Netflix miniseries in one night?
We're not joking. It's become like a model of, as we talk about the shaping and the structure, and it's like, what theater rules are we breaking? What are we elevating?
Yeah. So we're juggling video and projection and texting and live camera and all that stuff at the same time to do what I call 21st century acting, which is new, where an actor will have a scene that he's written where he's doing the scene and texting and tweeting and having you do 4 things at once. And I think audiences can handle a lot of information And I'm interested directorially, my august place that I've reached in my career, in actually trying to see how we can tell the stories differently. And it's real events, real people, real things that happen, and we have to weave them all together at the same time and allow people to get through this extraordinary question of what happens when you start blurring media and politics and government and who gets to be in charge. Those questions become very important, and they affect all of us, and they're affecting us every day. And it's becoming more and more important that we, as artists, we're addressing questions not to solve them for people, but to give them a platform for their own thinking and questioning for themselves about their own situation now.
So you have these two flamboyant and really fascinating main characters in Tom Watson and in Rebekah Brooks, who are enemies or adversaries in whatever way you want to describe that. So are you basically saying that you've got these characters who are true life, but you have to kind of forget that and just look at them as characters?
No, I would say I'm interested, have been for quite a while now, in writing, in using, I pause because I don't want to compare in any way, shape, or form, but using Shakespeare's histories plays as a model. That's what gets me up at the writing desk. And with our production Blood and Gifts we did together, now Oslo, and now this play, is I'm interested in, by using history and using real events and real people, but telling it through a fictional lens. This is J.T. Rogers, Tom Watson. This is J.T. Rogers, Rebekah Brooks. This is J.T. Rogers, every character in the play. Some of them I spent an enormous amount of time with and have interviews this long. Some of them I never met.
You didn't meet Rebekah, I guess.
I did not meet, for many reasons, did not meet. But also I want to be clear, this is not a play about those people are evil and we're good.
No, that's
very much more complicated.
Your role as a director is to express their lives, express and love all the characters, and understand all their positions. We're not here to do a hit job on that. We're here to tell a story about some events that happened in 2010 and 11, and then people get to come in and have their own point of view on that and how it affects them as citizens, as human beings, as whatever.
Tom Watson is a member of Parliament who leads the charge against Murdoch's news empire.
I believe she was not only responsible for wrongdoing, but I believe she knew about it.
Once he discovers that 11,000 phones have been hacked, from private citizens to police to politicians to celebrities. What makes Tom, played by Toby Stephens, such an ideal, if flawed, character to be our guide?
He's a larger-than-life character, and a character who looms large in the sort of political, social firmament in the UK now. And he is a complicated, remarkable man who had his private life attacked and decimated by the News International Press when Rebekah Brooks was the head of that paper. And he stepped away, and for a series of sort of jaw-dropping realities, which I won't give away because there's surprises in the audience, but all the craziest stuff in this play is true.
Yeah.
The craziest stuff, the most jaw-dropping, scary, funny stuff. It's very much like now, where we're saying, many of us are saying, there is no, what is happening to the truth? What is happening? Reality is being warped around us, and people are being lied to, and profit is being put above democracy. Profit is being put above the truth, and Tom gets pulled into leading that charge and pulling back, each layer is more wrought. But Rebekah Brooks was the sort of most famous and most formidable power broker, certainly female power broker, probably power broker in general in all the UK. Brilliant, talented, ruthlessly productive, sales through the roof. And she was, the right arm of Rupert Murdoch.
In casting Saffron Burrows, what were you looking for in terms of being able to play this very pivotal character?
It's one of the more difficult parts I've ever tried to cast, because Rebekah herself is amazingly engaging, beautiful, smart as can be, very powerful, and like a great villain at the same time in some complicated mix.
Well, in New York, I didn't have to clean up a mess like the one you've made here. Tom Watson and his merry band.
James, I will take care of it.
When will you take care of it?
When I decide the time is right.
And to find an actor who can sort of make you both engaged and excited to see them and hear everything they have to say, and at the same time not trust them, it's a very, very difficult balance. And Saffron, somebody we were lucky to come upon, and was excited to do it. She's extremely smart, comes from a kind of wonderful, very leftist family in
Deeply engaged
London.
in politics.
Deeply engaged in politics her whole life. Really kind of gets the intelligence of it and brings enormous striking, cuts a very striking figure in the theater. Great drama is not between a wrong and a right, but between two rights. So we have to protect her position, et cetera, and at the same time watch her. And Saffron's really brought extraordinary intelligence, heart, great acting skills, and she's been a blast.
For something that has been so well documented, JT, what liberties can you take as the writer?
I sort of set a rule when I'm writing a play like this, where I'm a dramatist. I'm not a biographer. I'm not a literal historian. Obviously, you condense story, you move characters around, you take people out, you give more charming lines to people than they might have in real life, but you condense and muscularize the narrative. But the one thing I try to never do is I don't want a character that I write, a fictional, my version of a Rebekah Brooks or a Tom Watson or there are about 50 speaking parts being played by 13 actors. I mean, it's an epic tale. Nobody argues a point that their real life counterpart would be vociferously against. Because even though everyone knows that a play is not real history, I feel we're living in such a strange time that I feel like there is a tether responsibility I have. I don't want you to walk away thinking that Rebekah Brooks actually secretly hates newspapers, for example.
What's the fictional sheen that J.T. Rogers puts on Rebekah?
She is a person of such polarizing, who produces, if I may, just in the public realm in the UK, just trying to speak without personally judging her, who is loathed and seen with an almost Trump-like rage by those who find Trump objectionable, put it mildly. But I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in something that I can admire and be complicated, because one-dimensional characters aren't interesting in that.
What does Rebekah understand about power that other mere mortals don't?
She understands influence. She knows how to build. I think she's our version. She's extremely idealistic about newspapers and willing to go to any means to pursue her idealism.
The ends justify the means.
Yeah, so those means are objectionable to many people, and she would say, but she would believe that's what she should do. And at the same time, hovering over all of this is the kind of larger specter of late stage capitalism, which is where is it that profit matters more than, good government, good anything? And is the effort on the part of a corporation to maximize its influence and power and profit share, is that worth more than whether or not somebody can run a government that is supposed to serve all the people? Yeah. And the clash of those two ideas is something we're suffering with now at every point. Who gets to say what, and do the billionaires get to tell us everything that we're supposed to do? And then those kinds of ideas have gotten extremely complicated now. And this is a very interesting little morality tale about the problems of the influence of capital and power and money and et cetera over, what is good for the people and how a legislator should work and what decisions you have to make on behalf of everyone. And we struggle with that here in this country between certain media tycoons and certain other people exercising their power and influence unfairly over people. And how do we decide? How do we make decisions about that? And theater can tell these stories to help people make those decisions or help them be alert.
Cameron has barely moved into Downing Street and the B-Sky B television deal is reopened and back on the table. Now, I'll wager my left arm and yours, that is what the Tories offered Murdoch for his backing.
Because if he gets full control of B-Sky B, he'll have a complete media monopoly.
But why? Martin, that's the key, because it's not about politics. It's not ideology, it's profits. Yes.
What is her fatal flaw, Rebekah's fatal flaw?
Hubris has brought down humans to the annals of history. There's a great line from British politics, which I stole for Blood and Gifts, is every political career ends in failure. Unless you get out soon enough. Every position of power ends in failure. Those who are consumed in wielding power at the highest levels, I'm sure, it's the rare person that doesn't realize that it's going to go away, and that's what happens. But I do want to say that as we focus on my protagonist and my antagonist, shall we say, but this is a huge story with his incredible character. We have, Max Mosley, the son of Oswald Mosley, the fascist, the near Hitler of England, whose son was smeared for strange sexual behavior, strange in quotation marks, behaviors by the News of the World. So he went after them and spent his fortune fighting them to bring them down. We have Charlotte Harris, the first barrister to bring lawsuits against them, whose own life was threatened. We have Chris Bryant, who was this incredible, fearless MP in the UK, who was the key of the story, and out of the closet at a time when that was not normal in British politics, and had no business, had no fear telling people about that. We have other journalists. We have, the sort of deep throat, the real deep throat of the story who appears.
Right.
So I mean, it's a 6-part miniseries.
There's the speech that Rebecca has about if we don't pander, however way you want to put it, to our readers, they're going to fire us, or they're going to unelect us, as they're going to unelect you.
Gordon Brown, Prime Minister of the UK.
To Gordon Brown. To what extent does she have a tiger by the tail, and is there this other character, what you would call the mob in, say, Julius Caesar, that you're dealing with in this play?
Well, I think that's very astute of you, Patrick.
That's a very good question.
That's a very good question. Very good question. I think that I'll backdoor answer. I think that, as we talked at the beginning of the show, what is the relevance, the sort of, for us at times, eerie, shocking relevance of the story about the moment we're living in the United States. And it's this very idea of what has happened in this country, where there are political operatives and newspapers and media that has purposely stoked a rage and a fury in a quote-unquote mob that is now turning on them as well. And I think that element is in this. And I think, to your question about what makes her understand power, she understands power in a ruthless and sort of brilliantly Machiavellian way that I can only admire, if not be chilled by, which is, Gordon Brown says, she says, no, I get to say whatever I want at you in print because that is the point of a newspaper. And he says, no, the point of a newspaper is to tell the effing truth. And the audience goes, yeah. And she says, and which truth would that be, Gordon?
That's
your truth or my reader's truth, because my fealty is to them. And if I do not do what they want, they will unelect me. And that is the paradox.
And that is what makes the truth fungible.
It's very complicated because we have to, and that's where the culture is healthy if it can engage in a discussion of what the truth should be from both sides or three sides and come to a conclusion. And that's the point of a democracy, is they have to compromise, they have to work through something, they have to build connection, and that process is what's dissolving.
These are burner phones. Going forward, anything we have to say to each other, we only use these. We're going to need to be a circle of trust. Alone, we have each fought Rebecca Brooks and the Hydra-headed beast that is News International, and alone, we have each fallen short. But together, we are greater than the sum of our parts. We are Parliament.
What makes it such a scary story, what's a scary play, is the palpable sense of fear that just rattles everybody.
I was flown to London secretly to do these interviews originally, not long after the events were exploding. And
but why secretly?
Because people wouldn't talk to me if the Murdoch press knew they were talking.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's like a character in the play.
People were afraid for their careers because careers were crushed willy-nilly, and people, this is their saying to me, true or not, were afraid for their lives.
Right.
And I became sort of incredibly rattled, and it was seeped into me. And the little hotel I was staying in, I asked if they could please bring a safe so I could lock up my notes. And I'm not saying this to present myself in any remote James Bondian way, but just that fear, that dread, that sense that there are forces that should not have this much power, have been given or have taken that much power, and this shaking the foundations of the reality and the foundations of a democracy. Once I was in the trenches talking to people, I said, well, this is what I write about. So come hell high water, I'm going to make something out of it.
And we can sense that fear in a certain political party right now. And
absolutely.
Rampant in America.
The use, how you get beyond an effective democracy is when somebody uses the manipulation of truth, et cetera, and fear to manipulate. And then it can be problematic. And ideally, good, healthy theater or art gives people the ability to tell the difference between good and bad, the truth and not truth. And that hopefully can make a small difference.
Hovering over this, of course, is Rupert Murdoch. Was there ever a possibility that you would have the character of Rupert Murdoch on stage?
Oh, it wouldn't interest me at all.
Okay, why?
Because Voldemort is more interesting. For those movie buffs, it's the Kaiser Soze of The Usual Suspects. To be spoken of and to wield power in the shadows is more interesting.
Keaton always said, "I don't believe in God, but I'm afraid of him." Well, I believe in God, and the only thing that scares me is Kaiser Soze.
But also just dramaturgically, it's the people, the layer. My body of work as a player has been sort of, as I look back at it now, writing about power, writing about what's happening behind closed doors, and continuing to rise through the ranks of people on the stage, the protagonists, the antagonists, being more and more powerful. Sort of like going from the common man to the princelings, to the dukes, to the kings. But there's a level at which it doesn't, people who are billionaires weirdly don't interest me because they are not connected to the world in the flesh and blood, erotic, humorous, dynamic way that human beings are and which we want to see on stage. So it just doesn't interest me.
How did you make the decision, Bart, whether to show film footage, documentary film footage?
Because it was in the script.
As
an interpreter once. Yeah.
As opposed to live video of the characters as portrayed by the actors and
some of it is, he's written most of it, like
most of the video
newscasters and stuff like that. And we do a lot of found footage to try to do, like originally David Cameron was actually a character in the piece, and eventually we made him just a video.
Yeah.
And so those kind of decisions are kind of always ongoing in terms of that.
What Bart's done so marvelously is we literally have taken not only his 21st century acting, but I feel like he's doing 21st century directing where there's scenes and he'll say, how would you feel if these two scenes actually happen at the same time on stage?
And that resonance is emotional, which I guess is your lodestar, right? What is the emotion of each of the scenes?
If the play is successful, if it is, it's that you, the viewer, are not only learning all this and sort of hopefully being thrilled by the scope and the epicness of the battle and the skullduggery and the surprises, but also that you care about these people.
It's devastation because you can care about, you don't have to care about politicians, they get or celebrities to some extent. But don't touch the common people, which you introduced fairly early on. And I think the audience found very amusing is that George Michael comes in, Hugh Grant comes in. What is the power of a celebrity to help your seven samurai?
We live in a celebrity cult. We live in a world.
But more so for Britain than here?
Not now.
No?
I think now I wouldn't. No, I think George Michael wasn't given enough credit as a citizen or a music maker during his life. But those quotes, those texts for George Michael, those are real quotes by him that I found.
In terms of the fragility of democracy, or whether in Britain or whether here, this is a scary story.
Yeah.
And a cautionary tale. What hope can you find in it?
Well, the hope is, and I pause because it is the right word, but it has also been freighted with a bunch of romantic mamby-pambiness in our current political moment. Hope feels too rosy tinted. I think what the play gives you by the end is a galvanizing sense of the fight is the point. You knock me down, I get back up because I have no choice, because this is my country. This is my democracy, and we are all in it together.
Yeah, and I believe that democracy is, and the democracy we're trying to practice as citizens, is the most noble and important pursuit in our entire culture. And it gives us the freedom to make the art we want, to do everything we want. And I do think everybody deep in their core, I have a belief that that is the most important thing to all of us.
What's the most important weapon we can wield in defense of that?
To be active citizens, engaging in conversation with everybody in your community.
Especially the people that you don't agree with.
Yeah, especially.
And what if those people find that their truth, like Rebecca Brooks says, is it my truth or is it your truth? How do you answer that?
I would answer that the struggle of the play. And if I had a clear answer for that, I wouldn't have written the play. If I know what the answer is, you don't write the play, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the struggle is, how do I know that you are wrong, perhaps even dangerously wrong, but still acknowledge you as a human being, not an enemy, and as a fellow citizen? And then what can I do to push the truth that I'm only some small part of to a point where it is strong and healthy enough to gently wash away an alternate reality?
The problem is we're not engaging, we're not talking, we're not coming together to share stories and questions and all that. And even the most severe Trump loyalists versus the most leftists, if they can get in the same room and have conversations and explore their differences, it will help both. It will help them both. And that's a hard thing to ask of people, but that's the point of democracy.
We demonize the danger, and I struggle a bit with it in the play, is the temptation, which is so easy for all of us to slip into, is the other side is evil. And the moment they are just simply wrong, let alone evil, is they don't have a point and they're not human anymore. And that's where that's where we have Capitol Riot. That's where we have this, that, and the other on college campuses. That's what we struggle against.
I hate to give Rebekah Brooks the last word in a way, but one of your lines, and I don't know if you took it from her, but one of the lines that stayed with me after the play was, he's not my enemy. He's not my enemy because it's personal. He's my adversary and must be defeated. And I think that's kind of what you just said. You said...
That's me. Yeah.
You just said, don't make it personal when you're in discussion.
Yeah.
It's hard not to, but don't make it personal, because then it's, as you say, the conversation stops and we don't get anywhere. Well, we certainly got a lot thanks to you, thanks to your play. Thank you so much for joining us, and you gave us a lot to think about.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. We look forward to bringing you more fascinating conversations with artists and professionals who live and work only to astonish us. I'm Patrick Pacheco.